Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to solve some practice questions for chapter 17 and we will start with quantity theory of money. So suppose that this year's money supply is $500 billion and nominal GDP is 10 trillion and real GDP is 5 trillion. Let's write first here the quantity theory of money equation. M, money supply, times V, velocity, is equal to P, price level, times Y. This part represents the nominal GDP. And here the Y represents the real GDP. Now we just need to plug the numbers to find out the answers of the questions. So let's start with the first one. What is the price level? So we know that P times Y is equal to 10 trillion. That's the nominal GDP. And we know Y is 5 trillion. So P times 5 is equal to 10. Therefore, P is equal to 10 over 5, which is 2. This is A. So let's solve part B. Suppose that velocity is constant. V is constant. And the economy's output of goods and services rises by 5% each year. So that means Y increases by 5%. What will happen to nominal GDP and the price level next year if the Fed keeps the money supply M constant as well? So this is our quantity theory of money equation. M times V is equal to P times Y. We can write this in terms of growth rates. If we write in terms of growth rates, then this is going to be percentage growth in M, and the multiplication sign turns into plus sign. Percentage growth in V is equal to percentage growth in prices, which is inflation, plus percentage growth in Y. So this is inflation, okay? Because percentage change in prices is called inflation. And we know that GM and GB does not change because the question says that they are going to stay constant. So these are 0 plus 0 is equal to, we know that GY grows by 5%. And we need to find out the price level next year. If the Fed keeps the money supply constant, then the price level, in order to have 0 here, GP plus 5%, therefore GP should be negative 5%. So as you see here, the growth rate in prices, here GP, growth rate in prices, should be negative 5%. If it's negative 5%, which is deflation, plus 5%, then this sum, following the quantity theory of equation, states that this sum is going to be 0. Part C asks what money supply should the Fed set next year if it wants to keep the price level stable. So again, let's write it. GM plus GV is equal to GP plus GY. And we know that this part grows by 5%. And we also know that velocity doesn't change 0%. So we want to keep the price level constant. Therefore, 0% here, do not change. We need to find out how much the growth in money supply. So GM plus 0 is equal to 0 plus 5%. Therefore, GM is equal to 5%. That's how we find. And again, I'm repeating here, we want price level to be constant. That means price level is not going to grow. And we know that the output grows by 5%, and we know that the velocity is not growing as well. And then using quantity theory of money equation, we find out the money supply should grow by 5%. Now let's look at part D. What money supply should the Fed set next year if it wants an inflation of 10%? So I said growth rate in prices is inflation. So we want this number to be 10%. I'm writing it again. We don't know what is the growth in money supply. We are going to find it. And we know that there's no growth in velocity. And we want GP to be 10%. And we know GY is equal to 5%. So here I'm replacing the numbers. We want to find out the growth in money supply plus 0% because velocity doesn't grow. GP, we want inflation to be 10%, and GY is going to be 5%. Therefore, GM should be 15%. If GM is 15%, then the inflation rate will be 10% given all the information. Now let's talk about number 2. And number 2 is about tax treatment. And we know that the income tax is out of nominal return, not real return. So the tax is imposed on nominal interest rate, not the real interest rate. And in this example, we will analyze how inflation erodes real returns on any account. Okay, Hannah and Miley each earn a real interest rate on their saving account of 3%. So the real interest rate is given. And Hannah lives in a country with a 1% inflation rate, while Miley lives in a country with a 10% inflation rate. And both countries have a 20% tax on income. Real interest rates are the same for both countries, which are 3%. And we can calculate the nominal interest rate. If you remember, nominal interest rate is real plus inflation. Therefore, here is 4%, here is 13%. And now we need to find out the interest reduced due to 20% reduction. So the tax is imposed on the nominal rate, 4% times 20%. So we need to find a 20% of 4%, which is equal to, so you're going to multiply number 4 with 0.2. That is 0.8. So 0.8% is the tax. 0.8% goes to the government. And we need to find here the same calculation, 13% times 0.2, which is 2.6% goes to the government. Now we can find after-tax nominal interest rate, which is 4 minus 0.8, because you need to subtract the tax. After-tax nominal income is 3.2%. After-tax nominal interest rate is 13 minus 2.6, which in this case 10.4%. And now we can find the after-tax real interest rate. Real interest rate is nominal minus inflation. In this case, nominal is 3.2% minus the inflation 1%, it's 2.2%. And here 10.4% minus 10.4%. So you see what happens here? The inflation, the high inflation erodes the real returns to 0.4%. Although the real interest rate they were getting before all these calculations was 3%, Hannah is reduced to 2.2% real return, and Miley is reduced to 0.4% real return. Now let's look at these examples. Here we have the tax rate of 40%, compute before tax real interest rate and after tax real interest rate in each of the following cases. And we have the nominal interest rate of 10%. So the real interest rate is 10 minus 5, which is real interest rate is 5%. Now 40% of the nominal rate goes to tax. So 10 times 40% is 4%. So the person who gets 10% return has to pay 4% to the government. So after tax nominal return is equal to 10 minus 4, which is 6%. Okay. And now after tax real return is equal to 6% minus the inflation 5%, which is 1%. So initially, if there is no tax, your real return is 5%. Because of the tax, because the tax is imposed on the nominal return, your real returns drop to 1%. This is how you calculate the first one. Now the second one, nominal interest rate is 6%, inflation is 2%. So if there is no tax, 6 minus 2, 4% is the real return. But now we need to calculate the after-tax nominal rate. After-tax nominal rate is equal to 6% times 40%, which in this case, we need to multiply 6 by 0.4. That is 2.4%. So after-tax nominal rate is 6 minus 2.4, which is 3.6%. After tax real return is equal to nominal minus the inflation, which is 1.6%. Now let's talk about question number 4. According to the assumptions of the quantity theory of money, if the money supply decreases by 7%. So again, we need to write this equation, GM plus GV, because they are growth rates, there's a plus sign, GP plus GY. And we know that the money supply decreases by 7%. This is negative. Then, since velocity doesn't change, remember, referring to quantity theory of money, velocity is constant. Then, here, both together is nominal and only GY is real, okay? So, it's not correct that nominal and real GDP would fall by 7%. If we want this to hold, if this side of this equation drops by 7%, then 2 together should drop 7% as well. So we need to find out the answer that refers to this calculation. So nominal GDP would fall by 7%, real GDP is not going to change. Remember, quantity theory of money tells us that if money supply changes, let's say, by 1%, then the prices increases by 1%. It's not affecting the real variables. Therefore, real GDP does not change. Question number 5. If monetary neutrality holds, then increase in money supply. If there is an increase in money supply, we know that nominal variables are going to increase, but does not affect the real variables. Okay? And let's find out increases nominal variables, but not real variables. Most economists think that money neutrality is a good description of short run. That's not correct. It only holds in the long run. In the short run, a change in the money affects production, affects employment, but in the long run, the economy reaches its capacity to produce goods. So an increase in money directly reflects an increase in prices. Number 6. So we have 6% raise this year, but she's complaining that this will not keep up with the increase in prices. In other words, she's unable to buy the same basket of goods with her 6% raise. If that is the case, 6% is your nominal increase. Okay, it shows the growth in the dollars, which in this case, wage is a nominal variable. 6% increase in the wage represents a growth in dollars. But if she cannot be able to purchase the same number of goods as before, then the real income should go down. So nominal income increase, but their real income decrease. So these are all questions for chapter 17 you need to go over. Thank you for watching.